My girlfriend's coworker mocked me. Planning to live off her forever. Get a real job. She even said, he's just joking. Don't be so childish. I stayed silent until the next day when I walked into the company as CEO and the joke officially ended. Before we go on, hit subscribe and drop a comment telling us which city you're tuning in from. I've been dating Sophia for 3 months. We met through mutual friends and we honestly clicked pretty fast. She works at marketing medium-sized SaaS software company called Mendoza and CIA Solutions. Good job. Seems stable. She likes the people there. The thing about my job is this: I'm what you'd call a restructuring specialist. I buy companies with problems, restructure them, and make them profitable again. It's not something I go around bragging about, especially when there are deals in progress. There are confidentiality agreements, contracts, and the whole shebang. So, when Sophia asked me what I did for a living, I was a bit ambiguous. I told her I was independent, that I did business consulting and development. She seemed to draw her own conclusions. She assumed I was some kind of freelance software guy who worked from project to project. I didn't bother to correct her. We were new, we were having fun, and frankly, my job isn't a great topic for dinner conversation. Last Friday, she invited me to her company's recognition night, a big event, a ballroom at the Camino Real Hotel, open bar, and awards ceremony. She wanted to formally introduce me to her colleagues and I said sure. I put on a suit and arrived at 7 o'clock. The night started well. I met some of her work friends. We had casual conversations, the typical corporate networking stuff. Then we got to our table. That's where I met Bruno. Bruno is the sales lead, 40-something. Loud laugh, a firm handshake that lasts too long. You know the type of person, right? He immediately asked me what I did for a living. Business development, consulting. I told him, oh yeah, work from, I'm independent. That's when his whole attitude changed. He leaned back with a mocking smile on his face. Independent, right? So, freelance, you could say. He looked at Sophia. Freelance, that's what we call the unemployed now. A couple people at the table laughed. Sophia smiled. She didn't say anything. Well, I do have a job, I told him, keeping my tone light. I just work for myself. Bruno didn't let it go. Independent. Doing what exactly? Building little websites, managing little shops on Etsy. More laughs. I stayed quiet. I took a sip of my drink. Sophia touched my arm. Leonardo, you don't have to get defensive. Bruno's just kidding. Then she addressed the table. He's very humble about his work. Sometimes too humble, that hurt more than Bruno's comments. She was telling me to play along. Basically, the night went downhill from there. Every time someone asked about my work, the people at the table gave each other a knowing look as if they all agreed I was some kind of charity case. Sophia was dating. Some of her colleagues made comments. It must be cool to have that freedom without a real schedule. Sophia likes men she can, handle. My cousin also does freelance web design. He's doing great right now with the economy. I stayed quiet. Sophia kept laughing with him. She told me I should relax when she saw I wasn't participating in the jokes. The worst part came during dessert. Bruno stood up with his drink and his voice boomed across the table. Hey, Leonardo. Seriously, tomorrow our company will have a new CEO after this acquisition deal closes. You should send in your resume, dude. Maybe they have an entry-level position for you. It could be your big break in a corporate life. The whole table burst out laughing. Even Sophia chuckled discreetly behind her wine glass. I smiled and nodded. I'll think about it. What I didn't tell him was I know exactly who's going to take over your company tomorrow. Bruno, around 10 o'clock. P.M. My phone vibrated. A text message from my corporate lawyer. Tomorrow, 9 o'clock a.m. acquisition announcement. You'll address the leadership team first. Boardroom setup. Confirmed. The board wants you there at 8:30. I excused myself to go to the bathroom. I sat in the stall for a minute just processing it. I've been working on this deal for 3 months. 3 months of audits, negotiations, restructuring plans. The purchase of Mendoza and CIA Solutions closes tonight. At midnight, Monday morning I'll walk into that building as the new owner and Sophia has no idea. I went back to the table, stayed for another hour, and let them make their jokes. Bruno was on a roll asking me if I needed help updating My LinkedIn, if I knew how to use Excel, if I had ever worked in a real office environment. Sophia squeezed my hand under the table, but she didn't say anything to stop him. I took her home. Around midnight, she was a little drunk and happy. Thanks for putting up with the teasing and being a good sport. Tonight, she told me, Bruno could be a lot, but he means well. It's just office banter, you know. I just nodded and gave her a good night kiss at her door. I got home and checked my email. Acquisition finalized at 11:47 p.m. Mendoza and CY Solutions now owned by Corporativo Perez, my company. It's 3 o'clock. A.M. I can't sleep now. I have to be at their office in 5 and 12 hours to address the leadership team. Sophia's going to be in that room. Bruno, too. I'm not a vengeful person. I bought this company because it's a solid restructuring opportunity with a good foundation but poor management. The work culture issues are documented in the audit reports. High turnover, complaints about a hostile work environment, sales numbers that don't add up. But I'd be lying if I said I wasn't looking forward to tomorrow morning. I'll update after the announcement. Holy mother, this blew up. May my inbox rest in peace. To answer the most common questions, no, I'm not going to fire Sophia for revenge. That's not how I do business. Yes, the acquisition was already in process before I met her. Was pure coincidence. The audit specifically flagged her department, but I didn't know she worked there until we had been dating for a couple of weeks. Update 1. The announcement was made. It went exactly as you'd imagine. I arrived at the office on Monday at 8:25 a.m. I met with the board of directors, first for a quick alignment on the message. At 9 o'clock a.m. sharp, we called a general meeting with the leadership team. The interim CEO, a good guy named Hector, who already knew this was coming, started the announcement. As you all know, Mendoza Insight has been acquired. I want to introduce you to the new management. Let's welcome Leonardo Perez, founder and CEO of Corporativo Perez. I walked into the boardroom. You should have seen their faces. Bruno literally froze mid-sip of his coffee. He just stood there holding the cup with his mouth open. Sophia turned pale. She went completely white. She mouthed what to me from across the room. The department heads looked confused. They didn't know me from Friday night, but the handful of people who were at that table knew exactly what was happening. I remained professional. I gave my typical acquisition speech. I talked about the restructuring plan, the timeline for changes, and my vision for the company's growth. That I'm committed to building a culture where people are valued for their skills and character, not judged by superficial measures or titles. I could feel Sophia staring at me the whole time. I finished after about 20 minutes and opened the floor for questions. Bruno's hand shot up. Yes, Bruno, I said. Excuse me. When did this deal start? 4 months ago. It closed on Friday at midnight. I saw him do the math. I saw him realize that he had been sitting at his table, listening to him mock me while I was literally days away from owning his company. Any other questions? Silence. Perfect. Department heads, I'll be scheduling one-on-one meetings this week. HR will send out the calendar. Meeting adjourned. I walked out of there. Sophia caught up with me in the hallway 30 seconds later. Leonardo, what the hell? I can't talk right now. I have a meeting with the CFO. You bought my company. I bought a company. I didn't know it was yours until we had been dating for a while. And it didn't occur to you to mention it. I stopped walking and turned to look at her. When should I have mentioned it? When we went for drinks and you told your friends I was between jobs. Or maybe on Friday night when your whole table was laughing about how I should apply for entry-level positions. She had the decency to look ashamed. That was just they were joking. Bruno jokes with everyone, right? Jokes. I started walking again. I have back-to-back meetings all week. We can talk later. Don't do this. Don't let what happened on Friday night. This isn't about Friday night. I looked at her. It's about the fact that you sat there and let it happen. You told me to be humble, to take the joke. I left her standing there. I spent the next 3 days in meetings. The CFO explained the books are worse than the preliminary audit showed. I found irregularities in the sales reports, very large ones, all pointing to Bruno's team. I also found something interesting. Sophia's department is performing well below average. The marketing team had already been flagged for restructuring even before I made the initial offer. Not because of her specifically, but the Entire group has culture and productivity issues. On Wednesday afternoon, Sophia sent me a message and asked if we could talk. I told her I was very busy with the transition, which wasn't a lie. She asked if we were still together. I told her I needed time to think. On Thursday morning, I asked Human Resources HR to pull Sophia's file. It's standard procedure. I review all department heads and senior staff. During acquisitions, what I found took me by surprise. She had applied to Corporativo Paris 18 months ago for senior marketing position. Her resume made it to the final rounds, but HR rejected her because she wasn't a good fit for the company culture based on reference checks. There were some concerns about her integrity and accountability. I never saw her application. That's HR's domain, but someone in my company had already evaluated her character and noted her shortcomings. On Friday, I scheduled the one-on-one meetings with the marketing team. Sophia was my last meeting of the day. She came in nervous and tried to make small talk. I remained professional. I asked her about her projects, her team's dynamics, and her opinions on the department's performance. Then I asked her about Friday night. What do you want me to say? She looked frustrated. I'm sorry. I've already apologized. I don't need an apology. I told her I need to understand something. Did you know those comments were bothering me? You could see it, but you told me to take the joke, to be humble. Why? She shifted in her chair. That's just how it works here. The culture. Bruno has been with the company for 8 years. He has pull. You can't stand up to guys like him without making things difficult for yourself. So, you chose the easy way out. I chose to keep the peace. I nodded. This is my problem, Sophia. I can work with someone who makes mistakes. I can work with someone who's learning, but I can't work with someone who knows what's right and chooses not to do it just because it's uncomfortable. This is about us, isn't it? You're punishing me. This is about the culture, the kind of environment I'm building here. And right now, you're part of the problem I'm trying to fix. I told her she would be placed on a performance improvement plan, a PIP. She would have 90 days to demonstrate leadership, accountability, and cultural alignment. Her manager would have the details for her by Monday. She left without another word. That same afternoon, I fired Bruno, not for what happened on Friday night, but because the audit found 23 cases of falsified sales reports, inflated numbers, and misrepresented client contracts. Security escorted him out at 5:45 p.m. Sophia sent me a message that night. She said I was being unfair, that I was letting my personal feelings affect business decisions, and that she expected more from someone who claims to be professional. I didn't reply. Been almost a week now. The company is adjusting to the changes. Some people are nervous, others are relieved. I found out that Bruno had been harassing and intimidating junior sales staff for years. 3 people have already thanked me in private for firing him. Sophia and I aren't speaking. She's on her PIP. From what I hear, she's telling people that the power has gone to my head, that I'm using my position to get revenge on her. Maybe she's right. Maybe I should have handled this differently. But I keep thinking about that table, about how easy it was for her to laugh with them, about how she didn't hesitate to choose their approval over my dignity. And I think this is exactly the kind of person who doesn't pass reference checks. Update 2. Things escalated this week. I need to document this while it's fresh. Monday morning, I met with the HR director and legal counsel. I wanted a full breakdown of the work culture complaints that came up during the audit. The list was longer than I expected. It turns out Mendoza and CIA have been bleeding junior talent for 18 months. Exit interviews constantly mention toxic leadership and a boys' club mentality. Most of the complaints pointed to the sales department, but marketing also came up. There were specific mentions of people not speaking up when they witnessed problems, covering up bad behavior with their silence. An exit interview from 7 months ago specifically mentioned seeing a marketing manager laugh while a sales lead belittled a colleague at a company event. It didn't mention names, but the timeline matched other incidents. That's when I decided to dig deeper into Sophia's history. I found 3 cases where she had been present during HR policy violations. She was a direct witness and said nothing. One of them was a harassment complaint that was swept under the rug because no one would corroborate the victim's story, even though 5 people including Sophia, were in the room when it happened. I also found performance reviews where she had given people lower ratings for not fitting in with the culture without explaining what that meant. Small things, individually, but together they painted a picture. She wasn't a villain, but she wasn't an ally either. She was the person who looked the other way because it was easier. On Tuesday afternoon, Sophia requested a meeting. She came to my office at 3 p.m. We need to talk, she said, not about work, about us. I leaned back in my chair. There's no us, Sophia. Not anymore. Over one stupid night because I didn't defend you from Bruno, because you show me who you are when things get uncomfortable. And I believe you. She sat down, uninvited. You're not being fair. You're taking one single moment and defining my entire character by it. It's not one single moment. I opened the file on my computer. You had 3 opportunities to corroborate an HR complaint about harassment. You chose not to. You give people lower ratings on their reviews for vague cultural fit reasons. You've been here for 4 years and haven't reported a single case of misconduct, despite being present for multiple violations. That's just how corporate environments work. You pick your battles. No, I told her. That's how toxic environments work. Because people like you allow them to. Her face hardened. You know what? Fine. Fire me. Let's get this over with. This whole PIP thing is just you dragging it out anyway. I'm not going to fire you. You're going to complete your 90 days. And you're going to show me if you can actually be a leader, or you're going to fail on your own merit. Either way, it's your choice. She stood up. I thought you were different, but you're just like any other guy with a little bit of power. It goes straight to your head. Maybe, I replied, or maybe I'm just tired of accepting mediocrity from people. Should know better. She left and slammed the door. On Wednesday morning, things got murkier. I got a call from my lawyer. Bruno had filed a wrongful termination lawsuit. His lawyer argued that I fired him in retaliation for comments made at a private event and that the sales audit was a retroactive justification. My lawyer laughed when he read the lawsuit. He falsified sales reports. You have documentation going back 8 months. This isn't going anywhere. Good, I told him. Send him the audit results, all of them. On Thursday, I met with a junior sales representative who had been working under Bruno, a guy named Diego, 26, with nervous energy. He'd been with the company for 14 months. I just wanted to thank you, he told me, for what you did. You mean firing Bruno? Yes, he made my life hell. He stole credit for my sales. He blamed me when his fake numbers didn't match the projections. He told me I'd never make in sales if I didn't toughen up. Diego looked down. I was planning on quitting. I already had my resignation letter written. Are you going to stay now if you give me the chance? I know I'm still learning, but I want to try, really try, without someone sabotaging me. I promoted him to interim sales lead that same afternoon. Probably too fast by conventional standards, but the kid had something Bruno never had: real integrity. On Friday, Sophia's manager came to talk to me. He told me that Sophia was struggling to meet the PIP requirements, specifically the part about demonstrating leadership in difficult conversations. She'd been asked to address some team dynamic issues, to push back in some unproductive meetings, and to call out certain problematic behaviors. She wasn't doing it. She keeps saying it's not her place. Her manager explained that she doesn't want to make waves. I nodded. Keep documenting it. Give her the support she needs to succeed, but hold firm on the standards. This morning I found something else, something I wasn't looking for. I was going through old company files trying to understand the culture that had developed here when I came across Sophia's original application to Corporativo Perez. I knew HR had rejected her, but I had never seen the actual reference notes. One of her former colleagues had written, Sophia's talented in execution, but struggles with accountability. She tends to align with whoever has power in the room, rather than doing the right thing. I would not recommend her for leadership positions requiring independent judgment. That reference was from 3 years ago, long before I met her, long before Friday night. I sat there looking at that note for a long time. This was no longer about revenge or hurt feelings. It was about patterns, about someone who had been exhibiting the same character traits for years and who no one had held accountable long enough for her to change. I call my executive coach That same afternoon, we talked through the whole situation, the acquisition, the relationship, the decisions I've been making. I wanted to make sure I wasn't letting my personal feelings cloud my judgment. This is my question for you, he said. If you had never dated her, if Friday night had never happened, what would you do with an employee with that history? Put her on a PIP, give her a real chance to change with clear standards and support. If she doesn't meet them, fire her. Then that's what you should do. So that's what I'm doing. The PIP continues. Sophia has 63 days left to prove she can lead with integrity. I hope she does it. I really hope she proves everyone wrong and becomes the kind of leader this company needs. But I wouldn't bet on it. As for us, personally, it's over. I called her last night. I told her we needed to officially end things. She agreed. She said she couldn't be with someone who was so spiteful. I didn't argue. Maybe she's right. Maybe I'm holding a grudge. Or maybe I finally learned what I should have known from the beginning. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. The company is doing better. Morale is up. 3 people have already applied for Bruno's old position. All internal candidates who have been waiting for an opportunity. We're restructuring the sales compensation plan to reward actual performance instead of whatever Bruno was doing. It's a mess, but it's a mess that's moving in the right direction one day at a time. Edit. Some of you are asking me why I'm posting updates about my ex-girlfriend's work performance on Reddit. It's a fair question. The answer is because this stopped being about her the moment I realized she represents a much bigger problem. It's about how toxic cultures persist because good people stay quiet, about how enablers are just as responsible as perpetrators. Also, it's Friday night and I'm working late in an empty office instead of having a life. So, yeah, I'm on Reddit. Final update. Quick update because something really messed up just happened that I need to process. First, the business stuff. Sophie's 90-day PIP ended yesterday. She didn't make it. Her manager documented multiple instances where she failed to demonstrate leadership or accountability. She missed deadlines, dodged difficult conversations, and kept trying to work around the requirements instead of meeting them. HR gave her 2 weeks notice this morning. She'll be gone by the end of the month. I've heard she's been telling people I fired her out of spite, that the whole PIP was a sham to get revenge because she broke up with me. Her friends at the company, the ones left in the old culture, are buying it hook, line, and sinker. Now, there's this whole narrative about the jilted CEO, ex-boyfriend abusing his power. I'll let it go. Anyone who believes that version either doesn't know the facts or doesn't want to. It's not worth my energy. Here's where things got interesting. This afternoon, around 4 p.m., there's a knock on my office door. Was Diego, the kid I promoted as sales lead, standing there looking nervous. Sir, do you have a minute? Sure. What's up? He came in, closed the door behind him, and pulled an envelope out of his jacket. I need to show you something. I've been hesitating about whether to bring this up, but after what I heard about Sophia leaving, I think you should see it. He handed me the envelope. Inside was a printed photograph. It wasn't professional quality. It looked like someone had taken it with a phone and printed it, but the image was pretty clear. It was from that Friday night at the gala. The photograph showed our table, Bruno in the middle, mid-laugh, with his arm extended pointing at me. Sophia next to him with her wine glass raised, smiling, me on the other side, with a neutral expression, my hands folded on the table. You could see the whole dynamic right there. The mockery, the complicity, the quiet dignity. Where did you get this? From one of the banquet staff that night, said Diego. Guy named David has worked a bunch of our company events. He saw what was happening at your table and it bothered him. He took the picture. Why? Diego paused because he'd seen Bruno pull that same stunt before. He thought someone should have documentation. Documentation of what? Hostile work environment. That's what David called it. He said he'd served at 3 company events in the last 2 years and Bruno always acted like that. He always picked someone to attack. He always had the table to pile on. David kept the photos because he thought someday someone might need proof. I looked at the photo again, studied Sophia's face, the easy smile, the casual participation in someone else's humiliation. David heard you were the new owner, Diego continued, and he wanted you to have it. He said you handled things with class and that people with power don't usually choose Decency when they can choose revenge. I didn't know what to say to that. Diego shifted his weight from one foot to the other. Look, I know Sophia's leaving. I know people are saying things, but I was at that table too. I was the junior guy, and I stayed quiet. I don't want to make waves. I saw the whole thing, and what they're saying about you now isn't true. You gave her the same chance you gave everyone else. She just didn't take it. After Diego left, I sat there with that photograph for a long time. I called my lawyer and asked him if this would have helped with Bruno's wrongful termination lawsuit. It wouldn't have hurt, he told me. Photographic evidence of hostile workplace behavior, witnesses from the company event. But we didn't need it. The falsified reports were enough. So this picture doesn't change anything legally. No, the case was already dead. But if you're asking me if this validates your decision-making process, yes, it does. Asked HR to add the photo to Bruno's termination file anyway, just in case he tries to come back with another lawsuit. But what keeps turning over in my head isn't the legal angle. It's what Diego said about people with power choosing decency. Because here's what I've learned in the last few weeks. I could have destroyed Sophia. I could have fired her on day one. I could have made her life miserable. I could have used my position to make sure she never worked in this industry again. I had the power to do all of that, but I chose not to. I gave her 90 days, clear standards, managers full support, and every resource she needed to succeed. She -1 on her own merit, and that's on her. Her exit interview is scheduled for next Friday. It's a standard practice conducted by an external HR consultant, completely by the book. The company is doing well. Revenue is up 12 since I took over. The sales pipeline is healthy now that the numbers are real. We've hired 6 new people. They're all a great cultural fit, and they're all excited to be here. Junior employees who were being harassed under Bruno are thriving. Culture takes time to change, but we're moving in the right direction. As for me personally, I'm okay, really. I had a date last week, actually, with a woman I met at a business conference. She runs a small consulting firm. We went for coffee, talked for 3 hours, and really connected. I'm seeing her again on Saturday. She asked me what I did for a living. I told her the truth right from the start. I buy companies and I fix them. She nodded, said it sounded complicated, and we moved on to other topics. It felt good to just be honest about it. The Mendoza and Saya building is starting to feel less like an acquisition and more like a real company. My company is satisfying in a way I didn't expect. Someone asked me last week what I really gained from all this. They meant it sarcastically, like, what did I get out of all the drama with Sophia? Was it worth it? But I've been thinking seriously about that question. I gained clarity about what I'm willing to tolerate, about what I care about in a partner, and about the kind of leader I want to be. I gained confirmation that my instincts about people are usually right, even when I want them to be wrong. David, the waiter, said, people with power don't usually choose decency. Maybe that's true. But sitting here now looking at this photograph of the worst moment of this whole situation, I'm glad I did. Because at the end of the day, that's the only thing that really belongs to you. How you treat people when you have the power not to. Sophia is leaving in 2 weeks. I'll be professional, fair, and stay completely out of it. She'll get her severance. Her references will be honest, but not vindictive. And she'll move on to whatever comes next. And I'll keep building something better here.